everybody, and welcome to a special holiday edition of Boobies and Newbies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and today's romance review marks the penultimate episode in Boobies and Newbies' 5th annual holiday special, The 12 Days of Boobsmas. That's right, it's the 11th day of Boobsmas, Christmas Eve is just around the corner, and Hanukkah is in full swing. Our month-long celebration of holiday romance books is coming to a close, and the Boobsmas giveaway prize packs are all in the mail, but never fear, Boobies and Newbies will return in 2023 after a short winter hiatus. In the meantime, you can always catch up on past episodes, including the 12 Days of Boobsmas from years past, by listening on your favorite podcast app or on our website, boobiesandnewbies.com. Be sure to keep up with us across social media for any upcoming news and opportunities. Boobies Podcast across all the channels, except on TikTok, where you will find me at Real Kelly Ray. Also, I don't think I need to tell you, but it's not too late to purchase a copy of my holiday novella, Meet Me in Los Feliz. You'll find paperbacks and ebook copies available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and even a few smaller retailers, so check them out now. It's the perfect way to treat yourself or the romance reader in your life for the holidays. And last but not least, if you feel like sharing a little extra holiday cheer this winter season, please consider leaving this podcast a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and supporting us on Patreon. You will find links for all of the above in today's show notes. And now, on to today's Boobsmas read. Joining me today is returning guest of the podcast, though it's been a minute or two since the last time we heard from her. Please welcome back Amelia.
Hello, I'm back.
You're back, and it's the holiday season.
And Santa Claus.
Yeah. I know. How much did you sing to yourself or hum to yourself while you were reading this book? Because I think if there is a holiday romance that will put you in the spirit, this is the one.
Yeah, it really did give me some warm, fuzzy feelings inside, which this stone cold bitch really needs. So, yeah, I really enjoyed reading it ahead of Thanksgiving, because usually I'm a little bit of a Grinch and don't get into the Christmas spirit until after Thanksgiving, but reading it before Thanksgiving was quite a treat and put me into the spirit a little earlier than normal.
I enjoyed it. And I've known you for years, and I feel like I never knew that about you, that you're somewhat Grinchy until it comes to, like, what is it? Is there something about the holidays that annoys you, or is it just like the added stress?
It's the opposite. I feel like so I don't listen to Christmas music until after Thanksgiving. I feel like if you celebrate too early, the fun and it like fizzles out too early, and then by the time you get to Christmas, you're just tired and exhausted from all of it. So I feel like it's more special the longer you hold off.
That makes sense. And I know lots of people who will say too that, like, when Christmas is over, like, after the 25th of December, that there's kind of like this, dulling of the joy, that it's just kind of like this hard stop, and that makes it, you almost kind of like anticipate being sad when like it's over and you have to put away all the decorations and, put the tree out by the curb. And so it's, I definitely get the, like, not too early, not too late. We want to make sure we have like that sweet spot. So yeah, fair enough.
And my family was always the family that kept the tree up until like February 1st. So,
oh my God. My parents, we would usually last until New Year's, but then it was like January 2nd. It was, of course, Dad being like, okay, come on, everybody help. We're going to take down the tree. I'm just like, what? It's different when you have a live tree versus a fake tree too.
Yes.
I mean, I could leave my fake tree up in my apartment all year long. And
all year long.
Who would be there to judge me? Nobody, because I don't invite people over. Oh, boy. Well, speaking of the holidays, we are here to talk about not just holiday romances, but also holiday traditions, memories, and everything of the like. So, what is one of your favorite holiday traditions or memories?
Yeah, so my family's pretty big on tradition, and up until a couple years ago, like really like shortly before COVID, every year since my earliest memory, a little bit after Thanksgiving, my family and I would rent a van, and we're in like the Bay Area proper, and we would drive up to the Santa Cruz Mountains to a Christmas tree farm, and we'd chop down our own tree, and then we'd go down to the
Oh,
wharf and have, dinner out on the pier afterwards. And it would be like it would be like my immediate family and also my aunts and uncles and grandparents, and it was just this big family affair. And as my grandparents got older, it just got a little bit too hard to do. And so
sure.
that tradition kind of died out. And now we're a fake tree family, which I never thought would happen. But
Mm.
I will say they are nice. They are
They're
nice.
convenient. Like I do less mess, less stress.
Yeah, no sap. You can get those little scenticles that you can like hang from your tree that are like ornaments that smell like pine, so
Mm-hmm.
you can pretend. And yeah, I will say it is nice having a fake tree. I do miss the tradition of going and cutting a tree down
I understand that. Well, actually, no, I don't because I've never actually cut down a tree, so I can't say that I understand that. It's so funny because we've always been a live tree family. However, we've gone to like the same tree lot for my entire life to
though.
just pick up a tree. And I do genuinely love the activity of like going to pick out the perfect tree.
Hmm.
Like I do think there's something fun about that, whether you cut it down or not. I don't care how many centicles you put on it. It's not going to smell like a fresh tree. It's a lie.
Right. Also, like, have you tried to store a Christmas tree before? Those things are huge, and I live in a
It's a
700 square foot
pain in the
apartment.
ass.
Yeah, apartment living just breeds minimalism.
Yeah,
So,
whether you like it or not.
right.
Now, I am curious, as somebody who lives in the same town as your family,
Hmm.
but you live in your own apartment, when it comes to like Christmas morning, do you stay in your apartment and then go over to their place, or do you spend Christmas at your parents' place? Because I find this so fascinating with like especially my friends who are married now and kind of having to create their own Christmas traditions, but like some of them do live in the same place as their families. So I always wonder, well, do you still spend Christmas there if it means like sleeping in your twin bed at your parents'
Hmm.
place, or are you just like moseying over come breakfast time?
Well, yeah, being a single woman, I definitely stay Christmas Eve at my parents' house.
Me too.
And that's partially because we have like Christmas Eve festivities. My family likes to do breakfast for dinner on Christmas Eve, which I
Oh my
love.
God, we do that too.
Oh, really? Oh
Yeah.
my God.
What do you
I
guys do
love
the
it.
same breakfast like every year for dinner, or do you like rotate like different things different
We'll have
years?
like staples like eggs and toast, but like
Okay.
last year I made a frittata. This year I think I'm gonna make a quiche, and we might
Nice.
have we might have like hash browns this year. So we mix it up a little bit.
We do waffles because the whole reason it started was we got a waffle maker maybe like 4 or 5 years ago for like a Christmas present, and we were like, okay, well, what do we want to do? You know, my mom always wants to offer us to do some fancy dinner, and I'm like, I don't know who you think you're talking to. Like, we are not fancy people. Like, when have we ever had a fancy dinner? And
Yes.
and so there was one year where we were like, oh, well, you just got that new waffle maker. Like, can we just do Christmas Eve waffles? And so ever since then it's been like waffles and sausage or like waffles and bacon every Christmas Eve dinner, and I for one love it.
No, yeah, this actually started as a tradition during COVID because usually my larger big Italian family were like always together over the holidays. And then when we had to really shrink that down, we were like, oh, well, if it's just going to be like my parents, my sister, my nephews, like let's come up with a new tradition. So
Mhm.
I thought of it. Maybe I knew you did it and was like, let's do it. I don't know. Um, and then
I
we started
mentioned the
it, and
waffles and you were like, "Damn, that sounds good."
And in the morning, I'm making waffles. And yeah, we love the tradition now. So yeah, I'll spend the night there, and then I have two nephews, so I like
Mm,
being there when they get there and seeing their little faces light up when they open their presents. I always feel
yeah.
like being around kids during the holidays, even though I don't want children myself and find them repulsive 99% of the time, I there's something about being around children during the holidays where
Yeah.
they like teach you how to experience joy and magic all over again. So
And that sounds like the plot of a Hallmark movie. She discovered the curmudgeon single woman discovered the meaning of Christmas by spending it with the children.
exactly.
I love it. No, I'm totally with you though. And also breakfast is great at any meal of the day. So clearly we're winning when it comes to Christmas Eve dinner. So everyone else can consider that as an option this year, hopefully. And
Hmm.
you won't be sorry. I've never had a breakfast that I've been like, oh, wow, I really regret that. No, like it's it's so good. So recommend it 10 out of 10.
Hmm.
Well, now that we've got food on the brain, I'd love to introduce to you our holiday game that we're playing on the 12 Days of Boobsmas episodes this year, Tit or Tat, which really is just a boobsmisified this or that would you rather game. So don't get too excited. But these items all come from the read that we will be discussing today, which is Single and Ready to Jingle by Piper Rain. And just so everybody knows, this grumpy sunshine read, or I guess I should say Grinchy sunshine read, was published in November 2022. It's available on Amazon for $4.99 Kindle edition. So everything that you're about to choose from, Amelia, comes from Single and Ready to Jingle. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, we're going to kick it off real strong with red wine or white wine.
Oh, red all the way.
Red all the way. Ooh, see, our heroine in today's book would have things she would disagree with
She
you.
would. Yep, she would. For some reason, white wine is more of a summery thing for me. Red wine is who I am in the core of my soul.
Well, and I'm not a wine drinker in general, but to my understanding, white wine is something that you usually have like chilled, right? It's usually a cold wine.
Yeah.
Okay, but not with red wine.
No.
Okay, got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that just goes to show you how much I know about wine in general. Okay, great. Moving on, but not too far because we're still talking drinks, and that is eggnog cocktail, or what they call in the book a Grinch cocktail. And honestly, I can't give you any more details because I don't even know what it was.
I know, I can't remember if they specified ingredients, but I'm actually not a big eggnog person, so I'm going to go with the mystery drink, say Grinch cocktail.
I'm trying to imagine what I think would be in the Grinch cocktail because I know it would be green. Like we know it has to be green. And I'm thinking,
Like apple
I'm
martini?
thinking, yeah, like if it's green, it's got to mix well with something clear. So it's got to be like a gin or a vodka based drink, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
okay, sounds good. And then this relates to the holiday party that they're planning in this book. Christmas Carol Sing Off or Christmas Carol Dance Off.
I am a sucker for a dance off. I think ever since I saw White Chicks, I was like, I would love to be in a dance off.
I like that's the one that did it for you. It's gonna take me a few Grinch cocktails to get into either one of these, but I'm here for either one, honestly. Like, and if people want to sing karaoke Christmas carols while people dance, even better.
Yeah.
Okay, this one kind of ties into to your feelings about when and how to get into the holiday spirit. So, putting up the holiday decorations the day after Halloween or putting up the holiday decorations the day after Thanksgiving.
Day after Thanksgiving. I might actually start putting my tree up tonight. I have like a 6.5 footer, so it's going to take a while. But
ooh, okay, sounds good. How about a trip to see the Rockettes or a trip to the Christmas market?
I'm going to say, since I know a Rockette, I'm going to say a trip to the Rockettes.
If you didn't bring it up, I totally was going to, because every time I see the Rockettes performing on TV during the Thanksgiving parade, I get really excited that while I don't know her personally, I do know her husband, who is one of our
Yeah.
childhood friends. So
Yeah.
I get so excited to be like, oh, I know her. Not really, but like I kind of know her.
Yeah.
Now, how about the outdoors? And your choices are ice skating or building a snowman.
I'm gonna say ice skating.
Mm,
That's a hard one. Yeah,
that
I'm
is a
gonna go
hard
with ice
one.
skating.
I feel like it gets harder to decide on that one the older you get because it's like,
Yeah,
well, how much of my life do I want to take in my hands while ice skating?
right. And my dad has a lovely ice skating concussion story that he likes to bring up every year. So,
Oh, God. Yikes.
yeah.
But then also building a snowman is one of those things that sounds so fun. And then when you actually do it, like that, you have to have a
Yeah.
lot of snow to actually build a legit snowman.
Yeah, I just remember it never being quite as fun as you envisioned it would be.
No, because we were all fed lies that you just roll them into like balls and that's it. And no, it is so much more than that. They always come out much more boxy than
Mhm.
round.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. But that just, I mean, we were raised on the West Coast. So maybe
True.
it's different if you're,
Mhm.
making snow on the East Coast or the Midwest or
Mhm.
something. Okay, how about classic hot chocolate or gingerbread hot chocolate?
Classic. Classic hot chocolate. Had one last night with some
Mm.
marshmallows. I'm a classic
Mm.
girl.
Do you go marshmallows over whipped cream?
I did both, Kelly.
Yes, that a girl. What was I thinking asking an either or whipped cream or marshmallows? Obviously, the answer is all of the above.
Yeah.
Duh. And then finally, Christmas in an NYC penthouse or Christmas upstate at a cabin.
Cabin, 100%. It's just like such a fantasy.
Yeah, I agree. I will say I do think it would be cool in a time or place to be in a penthouse apartment like overlooking Manhattan. Like my preference would be like if you could have that view on like the Thanksgiving Day parade, I think that would
Oh,
be
yeah.
like really dope. But
Yeah.
Christmas, I want the scenic beauty.
Mhm.
Although I don't want to get stuck there. That's the other thing is I don't want to be the one driving and having to get out of there.
Oh, no. The Holiday is one of my favorite Christmas movies, and I that's the cottage that I'm picturing, like, for this
Oh,
question, but I also don't wanna be stuck there, unless Jude Law's there, then that'd be great.
that's okay. Or Jack Black, honestly. I'd be
Honestly
fine either way.
honestly, yeah.
All right. Well, let me tell everybody the brief synopsis for Single and Ready to Jingle, and then we will dive into our discussion. So here you go. The girl who loves Christmas falls for the Grinch. It's a Christmas miracle. What started as a dumpster fire of a blind date turns into a deal. In truth, it probably didn't help that I showed up dressed like an elf, but that's a story for another time. Our start was rocky at best, which is why it's so frustrating that I can't stop thinking about his sexy British accent, or the way his chest and arms fill out his suit, or his perfect hair with that single streak of gray at the front. Oh, I forgot about that until now. I definitely want to talk about that later. Santa likes lists, and so do I. So here's all the reasons why Andrew and I aren't right for each other. He's my brother's best friend. He's the biggest grump I've ever met. He hates Christmas. That last one is big for a girl like me who thinks that the entire month of December should be a national holiday. So when he calls for my help in planning his firm's holiday party, I can't pass up the opportunity to grow my small business. Bonus, we make a deal, and he agrees to attend 3 holiday events with me so I can make him fall in love with Christmas. As if I'd pass up an opportunity to make a Grinch's heart grow 3 times its size. Okay, wait, I have to pause there because there's only a little bit left, but there's been at least 2 other synopses that we've read for holiday romances during the 12 days of Boobsmas that have somehow related back to the Grinch, and I have been waiting for somebody to make this fucking reference of his heart growing 3 times its size in every single one of them. So I'm glad to see that at least one holiday romance with a Grinchy sunshine trope decided to use it. Thank God. Anyway, rant now over. I will finish the synopsis. It isn't long until I discover Andrew has a very real reason to hate Christmas, and I start to see him in a different light. That's when the Christmas miracle begins. There you go. So overall, what do we think?
If I had to give this book an overall, just general rating, I would give it like an 8.5. I really liked what they did in terms of holiday elements.
Yeah.
There were a few things when it came to sexy times that I had some problems with.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear more about that later.
Yeah. But overall, I would say I did enjoy the book, and I have recommended it to 2 people already.
Yeah, I have to say, of all of the 12 Days of Boobsmas reads we've done thus far, and obviously I know this episode is coming out near the end of Boobsmas, but as we're recording this, I still have a few more reads to go. But I think this is one of my top picks so far of the ones that I have read. And I will say that the first 70% of the book, I absolutely loved. I very much enjoyed it. I have like almost zero notes about it. Like I thought it was well paced. I thought the character development was great. I love that we get to hear, more about each of their own baggage and sort of like how their issues with their own family and relationships has like influenced them to be like where they are at this point. It all made sense to me. I mean, you have to kind of give it a little leeway when it comes to like her doing this, the catering this party for him after he's been a dick to her. What does she get out of it? Well, she gets, the business contacts, but the trade-off is she gets to make him love Christmas. I mean, it's definitely like cheesy, but it's kind of, it's sort of the right amount of cheesy that I expect in a holiday romance. I loved the first 70-ish%. I did have some qualms with the last quarter of the book.
I
especially
100% agree.
The end.
Yeah. There was like one page where everything was going great, and I literally flipped the page and I was like, oh, we're at the end now. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very fun, when we meet our characters, Kenzie, I mean, what a way to start off the book too. She's like dressed as an elf. And I have to say, at first glance, I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous, but also let's go with it. I do love though, if you're going to put something as outrageous as like a grown ass woman wearing an elf costume, I love that Piper Rain decided to thread that throughout the entire book. Like we see her again when they finally, I don't know if this is one of the things you have an issue with, but when they do get sexy together, she dresses as like a sexy elf. And then later on, she's wearing her elf shoes underneath. It's just, I like that it was something that if you're going to use this, use it. Like use the elf thing, like thread the elf. He wants her to dress up like an elf. By the time they get to being a couple, he's like, yeah, you're going to put on that elf costume for me? Yeah. Actually, no, he's British. So it would be like, you're going to put on that elf costume for me. But then you also kind of find out that she's got a really weird relationship with her family. And I haven't read all of Piper Rain's books, so I'm wondering if there's another book that's about her brother and his relationship, because when this book begins, her brother's already very much in a committed relationship, and he proposes to the woman, and then by the end of the book, they're expecting. And so I kept thinking, oh, this seems like maybe there was another book with these characters.
Yeah, at the end of this book, she talks about how there's another book with the family that she has Andrew dress up as Santa Claus for. There's a separate book about that couple.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you know what? That makes perfect sense, because so many times when an author decides to write a holiday romance or a holiday novella, it's usually like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to their fans of like, oh, look, you've already met this family. You've already fallen in love with these 8 brothers and 1 sister and all the people that they get together with. I'm going to give you this little extra bonus treat where you maybe get to see them and get to see sneak peeks into their relationships after Happily Ever After.
Mm-hmm.
And then there'll still be a romance, for everybody else. And so I think you're right. I think this is definitely one that probably ties in with a few different stories, but I don't know what those stories are. And it's okay. Like, I found it enjoyable to read without having read those previous stories.
Yeah, totally. And I will also say I am usually the type of person that does not like multiple POV books. But for some reason, like, I don't know, my brain just has a hard time switching between the two. But
Okay.
but this one I was fine with. This one I did enjoy having both of their perspectives.
Okay. Yeah, and I do like dual POV, but you definitely want them to be like very unique to the people who have these split POVs. Like you want it to be like, I know whose side of the story that I'm reading now without you having to tell me that it's this person. So I thought they did a really good job with both of them, Kenzie and Andrew, and he actually is a grumpy Grinch when the story begins, which I appreciate. I think a lot of the times when we talk about like grumpy sunshine, they're not even necessarily grumpy. They're just, he's busy. He's a busy businessman and he doesn't have time for you because of his business. And he was busy.
But he was truly a Grinch.
Yeah, and it made sense. And so as much as I very, very much dislike the breakup moment in this book, but it does tie into what's kind of made him Grinch-like, because we find out that a while back Andrew was engaged, or no, I take that back. He proposed in front of everybody, his family, his friends, and it was a very public proposal. She said no. It was all captured on camera. So then we tie that into the breakup moment when fucking Bethany, that's all I have to say, fucking Bethany, one of the partners at the law firm, his young fiance is planning the holiday party with Kenzie and starts feeding Kenzie like shots, like, but she's like, oh, they're not alcoholic. It's just juice. And then when Kenzie starts getting schmammered, she's like, what's going on? I don't understand. And Bethany is like, oh, I lied to you. They do have alcohol, but I thought you needed a boost of courage. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I think you could sue Bethany.
I was like, is that illegal?
Yeah. Just like, she's been feeding you alcohol and telling you it's not, like, this sounds like a predator.
Yeah. Jeez, Bethany.
I know. I kept waiting for there to be some reveal that like Bethany was evil, or that like Bethany was like, I wanted her to look bad so I could take all the credit for the party. And I'm like, okay, is she just dumb? Is she just giving her drinks? Like, not like, this is a work affair for Kenzie is the party planner. Why would you ever think it's okay to give somebody alcohol, not tell them specifically that it's not alcohol, and it's the person who's working? Like, I could not wrap my brain around that one.
Yeah, very unprofesh of Bethany. But also I think that Andrew like blew it out of proportion. Like, what was Kenzie doing? She was just
Agreed.
Being a little goofy in front of his bosses, and I guess, his past trauma crept in a little bit there, but blew it out of proportion. And then in the end, none of his coworkers actually cared at all what happened. So
shocker. You mean to tell me somebody got a little drunk and embarrassing at the office Christmas party and people weren't shocked about it? Like, I mean, this is an office Christmas party, which I've been to a few in my day, and that's usually where the shadiest shit goes down. And everybody's just like, oh, yeah, it's Christmas.
That's where people get their goss that they can talk about for the entire next year until the next Christmas party.
Right. Oh yeah, that's Teresa. She did a lot of coke in the bathroom last year and then blew Santa in the alley, and you're just like, "Oh, yeah, Teresa." Like, it's just nobody cares. Like, but I do understand that, like, obviously this moment it brings back trauma for him that's been living rent-free in his head and basically preventing him from wanting to have a relationship and also preventing him from enjoying Christmas. So yes, he handles it poorly for sure, but I do understand where that's coming from. I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on with Bethany. Like, I don't know what prompted this. And then so this is where they started to lose me, is in these final moments of like the breakup, because that just seemed like a lot. I was like, I kind of have a hard time buying Kenzie as when she is drunk doing this. Like, I don't see this necessarily happening, especially when she's worked so hard and like put together this work function. I don't see that. It just didn't feel in character with me for her.
Yeah.
And then when he apologizes, it's not just an apology. It's a proposal.
Yeah.
It's a proposal in front of a public one, again, in front of everybody. I just am so done with I don't want to say like the grand gestures. Like, I don't like them in general, but like when it makes sense for the characters, I can buy into it. But you do not get to propose in lieu of an apology. Like, that's not, it's the same as like when the characters are having the fight and he just kisses her to shut her up. And it's like the fight's over. I'm not okay with it.
Yeah, that felt exactly like that. And also, like, as soon as you get to the scene of the actual holiday party is when the book sort of like speeds up in timeline and it just doesn't feel quite as fleshed out. I feel like I would have been a lot more okay with the proposal and the way it happened had we had more in between those two parts of the book.
Yeah, because once they have their like getaway in upstate New York and they basically become a couple, although they're still kind of keeping things under wraps because he is her brother's best friend. And, you know, there's always the added tension with that you never know what to expect in a romance. But after that, there are at least 2 different chapters where they mention upcoming events. She's working on 2. She has the holiday party for his company, and then she also has the holiday party that she's doing for that family, which is apparently a family from a previous book. I don't know. And in between, we don't see them together. It very much, I know that I read this in multiple chapters where, the past week flew by so quickly because I was so busy planning this event. And then all of a sudden it's the event.
Yeah.
Same thing with the next one. We haven't seen a lot of each other, or we went on a date yesterday and now it's the day of the holiday party for the law firm. And I think you're right. I think we kind of missed some opportunities of when they actually are an established couple to see them as a couple. We see them when they're dating. We see them when they're not even technically calling it dating. Like they're going on these I'm going to make you love Christmas dates. And we see them falling in love on the way to becoming a couple. Once they are a couple, it just kind of glosses over it.
And that's why his proposal came as a shock, because it just feels like they weren't together that long and didn't have that many experiences together. And you're like, well, if you had a past failed proposal, you would not be proposing again this quickly.
Yeah. And see, that was my thing too, was I kept thinking, okay, if his hang up is that he had a public proposal gone wrong, this book is probably going to end one of 2 ways. It's going to end in a public proposal gone right, or it's going to end in a non-public, like, let's create our own sort of proposal. So I kept thinking it was going to end in a proposal in some way. However, when they do have that breakup moment where everybody pulls out their phones and is recording her, like, kind of grinding on him at the holiday party, I kind of erased that idea about the end and thought, okay, this is sort of the mirrored event from his past that we're going to see. So like, never mind, we're not going to do it. So it almost felt like I could have one or the other, but not both of those moments, because then it just, I don't know. I didn't feel, if you're going to propose at the end of a book, you have to earn the proposal. And especially when it's a shorter book, I don't know if they earned that proposal, let alone a very public proposal for somebody who is anti-public proposal for the entire book.
Right. Yep, I agree.
Now, I want to know about the sexy times and what your hangups were. Like, was it the elf thing? What was it?
No, I actually didn't mind the elf thing. I thought it was pretty cute. I mean, in our current society, we see misogynistic behavior every day, and what
Yep.
I have a problem with is anytime it feels like there's any sort of ownership over women. And there were a
Mm.
couple lines in this book that got me a little bit. And also I hate the use of the word mound. And it's something
Mound
of
is to you as folds is to me.
but the line is, when he reaches my mound, he grips it possessively, as if saying without words that it belongs to him. And I did not
No.
like that line.
No. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
again, this is echoing a previous Boobsmas episode I know we've recorded where I talk about how I don't enjoy when people call their significant others mine, where they'll be like,
Mhm.
that's my man. Oh,
Mhm.
she's mine. You're mine. And here's the thing is I know there are a lot of people who read romance who love an alpha possessive hero. And if that's
Mhm.
your thing, that's fine.
Mhm.
However, the problem that I have is when we start to see archetypes like that off the page. And you're
Mhm.
right, we do see a lot of people who this is something that we see in real life relationships. This is something that we see echoed on TikTok videos all the time and
Mhm.
people's posts about bad dating stories and bad relationships. And it's one of those things that because it's so real in real life in such a negative way,
Mhm.
I personally don't want to read about it because I can't erase that reality from my
Right.
reading experience.
Yeah, and books for me, they're a form of escapism, and I want to read stories where it's like, a fan. I mean, the thing is, I don't want it to be a fantasy in my head. I wish, I didn't like these kind of things didn't exist in real life, but I don't want to be reading about it. Too
Yeah,
real.
no, I know. I always think of them less as a fantasy and more as like a reality is what is, and my romance reads, I want to be what could be. That it's like
Yes.
this is how relationships should look, or this
Mhm.
is how we should have conversations about certain things. And honestly, there's a lot of moments in this book where Andrew and Kenzie both are very vulnerable with each
Mhm.
other about their past and their families. And I love that. I think
Mhm.
that's fantastic. And I think that is how, especially men in real life, should be able to talk about their feelings and
Mhm.
not be judged for it. But when you combine that with somebody being like, he grabbed my pussy
Mhm.
possessively, I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah. I think what made up for that also was later on in the book, they did have a sexy time that was like they both compared it to, like, making love, and it was a lot more
Gah.
emotionally vulnerable and sensual. And
Yeah.
if there was just one or the other, like, it's cringe either way, but because she had, like,
Right.
both of those,
Yeah.
in there, it balanced it out for me for sure.
And I always look for that in romance. I always look for like there's the scene where like they have sex for the first time, but then there's the scene where, and I don't love the term making love, but there's the scene where it's like they have sex or make love for the first time with those feelings, like
Mhm.
with the actual like loving feelings. And
Yeah.
you're right. I think there was a really good juxtaposition of those scenes
Mhm.
because you can sense it like as you're reading it.
Mhm.
And I do think that's important. I highlighted a sexcerpt to share that was less cringy than the one that you shared. And that's because I feel like I don't get to see this enough in romance. And it's when she rides his face. And I'm all for it, friends. And she was very reluctant to do it. She's like, ooh, like I've had men go down on me, but like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. And he's just like, get up here. So,
Get on my face.
get up on my face. I'll just share like a little bit here. Oh my God, Andrew, my voice is raspy as though I've been screaming at a concert all night. One hand dives into the hair at the top of his head, and I pull, earning me a sound of satisfaction rumbling from his throat. He pulls away for a moment and says, "Ride my face, Kens. Take it how you want it." Me from an hour ago would be aghast at the idea, but me in the present thinks nothing of his request except obedience. Okay, don't love that term, but okay. I jerk my hips back and forth, bearing down on him. The friction is blissful, and Andrew knows exactly what to do with his tongue. So yeah, this is, again, it's another, just the word obedience. I'm like, oh, it's not for me. I'm a little tired of there being sort of these gendered ideas and terms in romance, especially when it comes to the sex scenes. And I think we see this a lot too when people are talking about the size of a man's penis in romance, that more often than not, we know in romance books it's described as being enormous and it's the biggest one she's ever had, and oh my God. But when they use words like his manhood or it's so male of him, his eternal maleness, it brings me out of it, because frankly, it's transphobic, but also it's just reinforcing these ideas of like, this is what it means to be a man versus a woman. And I, for one, would love to see us unsubscribe to certain terms and phrases like that.
I'll read another excerpt here. This was when they were about to start getting it on in that closet at the holiday party.
Oh, yes. Where she says she's not wearing panties.
Yeah. And and like it started off great, and then the line, "He looks at me in a predatory way and it fires up all my nerve endings." I never want to hear the word predatory in the sex scene.
So interesting. I will tell you, from my experience now of writing a holiday romance and just writing a romance in general, there were certain things that I wanted to include because I was like, oh my God, I'm trash for these things, so I want to put them in. And there were certain things, phrases, character types that I was like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about putting this in. And one of the words that I had a major issue with was I did use the word predatory at one point. And it was something that even I felt icky about, even though there was nothing predatory about it. I think I used the phrase like his predatory gaze or something like that. And, but it was something that I kind of highlighted for myself as like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about this. And I was very thankful that I had at least one of my ARC readers or beta readers say that it was something that kind of bothered them as well. And that was all I needed. That was all I needed to confirm that it was something to take out. So that's something that I need to start learning as a writer, to trust myself on more. It just goes to show that there are things that, yes, you cannot make everybody happy, but I do think that if there's something that bothers you as the writer, you need to pay attention to. That's a note for myself more than anything.
Yeah. Wow, yeah, that's interesting.
But then again, I've written one novella at this point, and Piper Rain has tons more to speak. And, just because something bothers us, we know that there are plenty of people out there who do love the possessiveness of hero characters in their books. However, I would like to see variations of that and not as much of that moving forward. But to each their own.
I think another surprising thing was that, like, outside of those sexy times, he didn't really seem to have that in his personality. Like, yes, he was a little bit of a Grinch, but like I didn't sense any sort of like possessiveness or any of that over her, like outside of like when they were being intimate. So that also is what, I mean, hey,
yeah,
they say if you have a powerful job, you like to be the submissive one of the bedroom. So
dominated.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, fairly. I had a couple other highlights I wanted to share. These are not sexcerpts by any means, but just things that I thought about. One was the amount of detail that went into describing their clothing was a little unnerving. I like at one point, actually, no, I think this is from Andrew's point of view. So this is even like Andrew saying it. He says, since it's cold today, I'm wearing a cream cable knit sweater under my charcoal trench, dark denim paired with Blundstone boots I've worked in over the past few years and now fit me perfectly, and a scarf and leather gloves. I opted against a woolly hat to preserve my hair in case the two of us grab a bite to eat. And there were multiple chapters where both from Andrew and Kenzie's point of view, they were so descriptive with the clothing that I was like, wow, this must be something that Piper Rain gets really into when they're writing. It's like, ooh, I have vision boards of like what the characters' outfits look like. Because I, for one, am like, I couldn't care less. You could tell me they're wearing a coat and that's enough for me. But
yeah, that excerpt in particular where he was talking about his reasoning behind the hat he chose, I was like, oh, that's information I didn't need to know. But also, I do really appreciate the nod to the cream cable knit sweater. I think it's my obsession with Chris Evans. And particularly his whole Knives Out cable knit sweater moment. I appreciated that as well.
Yeah, nobody wears a sweater like Chris Evans in Knives Out wears a sweater.
I think Sexiest Man Alive 2022.
The other thing I highlighted was, you know what? Look, if I can learn something from a romance novel, I'm game. And I know that just as we've lusted over Chris Evans in sweaters, I know that I've seen videos, especially on TikTok, where people are showing specifically Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock in The Proposal in a scene where they leave a building and he basically like nudges her to the side to make sure that he's walking on the outside closer to the street. And I've seen people highlight this on Romance Book Talk so many times, saying, oh my God, this is like, so, you know, it's kind of alpha in a way, but also like this is like somebody being a gentleman. And it's not really something that I noticed until then. And so it's something that Andrew does in the book, and they even talk about it. And I was not expecting a history lesson on where that social practice came from, which apparently, according to the book, and I quote, the practice came about because way back, people would throw their waste from the chamber pot straight out the window. This way, men were much more likely to be covered in shit, literally, than the woman. And it makes perfect sense. Like, I mean, it makes perfect sense, but also, what?
You know, I've never been more glad to be alive in the 21st century. I don't know if I could. I mean, I guess I wouldn't know any different, but I don't know if I could have done it. I don't know.
I found that so amazing. I will absolutely be sharing that little tidbit across our social media channels when this episode comes out, because what a great factoid. Like, I really, like, if you're going to give me something historical, something that I'm going to tuck away and be able to bring up as like oh, did you know? Someday, this is the one. This is the one I want.
What's also funny is that shortly after I read that excerpt, I read this whole book in one day. And later that night I was on TikTok and I got a TikTok about the history of this. TikTok is listening.
Stop it.
TikTok is listening.
They're listening. The other thing that I did highlight as like is that a thing? Was they mentioned the fact that Andrew has this gray streak in his hair. And she asks him, because I was just thinking, oh, yeah, sure. Like, men start graying at different ages. I mean, women do too. And maybe he just has like kind of it concentrated in one area. And he says, no, I've always had this, like, since I was like a kid, a teenager. It's called a Malin streak. And I had no idea that was a thing. I had no idea that there was like a name for it.
I grew up with a kid that had a Malin streak.
Stop, really?
So when they brought that up in the book, I was like, oh yeah, vaguely familiar with what that is. But I also find it funny. I feel like the whole gray or gray streak is a common trope in romance novels, and I don't know what it is, if it just brings like a sense of wiseness to the character, or just
I think it's a sense of like daddy, honestly. Like, I see it more. Yes, that's how I see it, is that women are complex creatures. And I'm in this case, I'm talking specifically about women who are attracted to men. But that, I'm sure you've seen this too, is like when on TikTok where people try to explain like the differences between what women find hot and what men find hot. And that we are not just generally attracted to like physical appearance. Like there's usually a lot more to it. It's the personality, it's a sense of humor. And I think it's almost like a sense of like dignity, but like also like, ooh, a sign of like he's maybe a little more mature. He's aging well.
Yeah.
This is somebody I could grow old with. And so that's what I think it is. Okay, well, let's give this book a few grades. And I can't remember if we're using the same rating system that we did the last time you were here. However, I will just tell you that we are rating for heart, humor, and heat on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the very best that it could be for you, of course. And, you know, because the holidays are upon us, I've added an extra H for holiday. So heart, humor, heat, holiday. Let's start with heart. What do you think?
Heart. I will say the first 75% of the book, I would give it a 10. Like
I would too.
and then like the last 25% of the book, I probably like a 3.
4. Yep.
4,
yep.
yeah.
We're on the same page.
Oh, I guess I should average. I'm going to give it a 7.
I gave it an 8. I was being, I feel like, a little bit generous and gave it an 8. Also, I will say, I do get very annoyed when like we fast forward to a marriage and baby. But yes, this does end in an epilogue wedding and surprise, she's also pregnant. Not my favorite, but I think between a 7 and an 8, when you take into account like the whole book, seems fair. All right, now you can do humor.
Humor, I'm going to go 5. I was a little, there were like maybe 2 moments where I actually laughed out loud, but overall, not much humor throughout the book.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I was kind of split between a 4 and a 5. Like, I think there's definitely some humorous moments, especially when you take into account, like, I mean, it starts with her running down the street dressed as an elf and she goes on like the worst blind date ever. I'm like, but it's more of like awkward humor. And I don't like this is why I could never watch American Idol, is I do not find humor in other people's awkwardness. Like, it just makes me feel awkward. So it's not my kind of comedy.
Yeah, agree.
How about the heat though?
Heat, I feel like I would have ranked the heat higher had there not been those few qualms I had with like ownership. I'm gonna say 7. I think I could have used just a couple more intimate scenes earlier on in the book. I feel like they didn't hit until about halfway through, which, you know, is normally fine, but I think I could have used a few more in there.
Yeah, I gave it a 7 as well, and I think there's a good amount, but you know, another one wouldn't have hurt. But I thought there were a good amount, and the scenes that were there were very detailed, very descriptive, but to elevate from like a 7 to an 8 or a 9 for me, we have to kind of like cross the line into something maybe a little kinkier, or we have to bring in like some toy play or varying up the positions or something. So overall, like the sex was good, but it also was, I don't know, just kind of like run of the mill sex. Like, in fact, I feel like some of the hotter moments were when there was like a little more tease between them. Like when she's like telling him like, I'm not wearing any panties. Oh, guess what? You can't do anything about it for hours until this party's over. Like, to me, that is much hotter. So I thought there was like some really good foreplay between the two of them.
Yeah, I agree.
How about holidays? Because I feel like this will probably be our highest ranking for the book.
Yeah, I'm going to say 10. I feel like, from the first paragraph, you're instantly brought into the holiday realm. And I think it continues nicely throughout the book. They bring in various elements like going to like a cabin in upstate New York and just doing all the metropolitan New York holiday activities. I would give it a 10.
Yeah, I give it a 10 too. They do so much. The story is so much about her planning specifically a Christmas party for this company. Like, if you take that out of it, you lose half the book. Like, I mean, it's just, there's so much that's about Christmas and the holiday season. I do think about, I wish there was like a little bit more resolution with her family, because I feel like that was a thread that we never really kind of tied off at the end. And it's not that I wanted them to have this perfect, you know, happy ending with her family, but I don't know if we really got much out of it, like at the end.
Yeah.
So I'm still going to give it a 10 though, when it comes to holiday because it was there start to finish.
Yeah. And I also will say it wasn't like it was there start to finish, but it didn't feel like overkill.
No, it wasn't like to the degree of like Hallmark, like we have to go enter the gingerbread making contest and like, oh, we're also like, we forget that we have like jobs and we're just doing all this holiday shit and, oh, but aren't you a lawyer? Like, no, they were still working. They were still living their lives. Yeah. They still lived in a city, which again is something that, I mean, there's a reason I wrote a holiday romance set in a city. I feel like most of the time we take characters out of the city for the holidays. And so many of us, as we've said from the beginning of the episode, are apartment dwellers with fake trees that we have to put in our closets 11 months of the year. And I like to see that represented in these stories as well.
Yeah.
Yay. Well, this has been so fun. And I'm so thankful that this book got you in the holiday spirit. And I can't wait to see, well, I can't wait to see you next time I'm in town, but I also can't wait to see your tree once it's up.
Yeah.
I want to see the finished product.
I kid you not, spent $200 on Christmas ornaments a few weeks ago. So
oh. Do you know what my
bank account,
my new thing that I'm like trying to talk myself in and out of buying is World Market has these very cute, I know how a lot of people do like Christmas villages, right? They like set up like little Christmas villages. I found on World Market, they have these like little houses and scenes, but they're all like Palm Springs mid-century modern. And I'm like, oh my God, I would love that. I'm a California girl. I'm a West Coast girl. Like that would be perfect. But like, you know, each one, it's like $20 or so. And my thing is, could I buy them? Yes. I don't know where the hell I would put them. I don't have a surface to put them on. Like, so I don't know. But I might end up doing it. I haven't decided yet.
They're very cute. I love a good Christmas village.
Me too. But, you know, our bank accounts can only take so much.
They can. Yeah.
Well, this has been a delight. And until the next time we have you back, because I'm sure you will be back on Boobies and Newbies in the near future. Thank you again. And, you know, happy holidays to you and everyone. And breakfast, of course. Happy breakfast at Christmas time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. And cheers to waffles.
Amen. And to everybody else listening, as a reminder, we've got just one more day of Boobsmas heading your way, so look out for that soon. But in the meantime, on the 11th day of Boobsmas, my lover gave to me 11 bodice rippers. Merry Boobsmas.
On the 11th day of Boobsmas, my lover gave to me 11 bodice rippers, 10 tubes of lube, 9 naughty spankings, 8 rock hard abs, 7 minutes in heaven, 6 billionaires, 5 penis rings, 4 dukes of fucking, 3 butt plugs,